7-cent cotton and a 40-cent meat. How in the world can a poor man eat? Flour up high.
But around the corners wind the lengthening bread lines, and a whole new class of citizens appears in American society. The new poor.
We don't have a lot of food. My dad might buy food here and there, but it runs out really fast.
Some days, me and my wife went without eating just to make sure the kids had enough.
It's a terrible feeling as a mom, but it's a reality. Do you get the medicine? Do you get the fresh food? Do you get the pair of shoes? Or do you send them to school in November with sandals?
1 in 8 Americans struggle with hunger. People you see every day, but never knew were hungry. Because hunger can be hard to recognize.
I am what hunger looks like in America. People you pass by every day, but never knew they were hungry.
God is good, God is grace, and we thank you for our food. Amen.
If you want to know what hunger looks like,
I keep a lot of oatmeal, because sometimes if things get tough, you can always eat oatmeal for dinner or for lunch or something like that.
Add rising grocery prices to the higher cost of gas and electricity, throw in disappearing jobs and home foreclosures, and you can understand why people all over our country are struggling to keep food on the table.
Do you know how that feels as a parent to tell your kids that there's not enough to eat?
their story of how little food they have is hard to hear.
Sometimes we just don't have it, so he'll go one day without eating, so I eat, and I'll go a day eating, so, vice versa. It's humiliating, and, having to admit that, we're starving, and things are tough, but we're not the only ones.
So what do you do if you're working every day but don't earn enough to keep up with the rising cost of living? Or you're retired and living on Social Security? Or you've lost your job, your home, get sick, your bank account is bare as your cupboard? Well, you turn to food banks and food pantries.
Prior to the crisis, about 11% of Americans suffered from food insecurity, and we have every reason to believe that those statistics are increasing dramatically in the current time period.
You've been running this pantry more than 30 years. Have you ever seen demand like this?
No. It's doubled. Everything we're doing is double. Just about every week it doubles from one time to the other.
There's more than enough food to feed everybody.
When we throw away 72 billion pounds of food every year, surely we should not also at the same time have 37 million people who are struggling with hunger.
Meanwhile, America is estimated to waste from a quarter to an entire half of all the food it produces.
What is the hungriest you've ever been in your life, and how do you describe that?
Horrible, degrading, miserable, stressful.
For a while, I was very cynical. I looked down my nose at a lot of people, but now I'm one of those people that I look down on. And so I don't look down on anybody anymore.
Almost 1 in 4 American households reported being food insecure at one point last year.
You may have enough food for the day, but you're worried about tomorrow or you're worried about next week.
There are people with jobs who are struggling to keep up with their bills each month. A lot of them have to pick between buying food or keeping the lights on, or putting gas in the car, or paying their medical bills.
Those are the types of choices that your neighbors are making every day.
You never really know what's going on behind closed doors. For a long time, I felt like food was a privilege. I've been to the point where it's like, oh my God, I ate today. That's great. And no one should feel like that.
Are you hungry at all?
Yes, I am hungry.
Today we're going to talk about hunger in America and how seniors aren't getting enough to eat. And it's a largely hidden problem.
While Congress did pass additional benefits for some recipients, a high percentage of the poorest households did not get an increase.
In fact, the entire safety net designed to help hungry seniors is fraying.
I believe that the biggest hurdle that we confront in this movement is that people simply don't understand. So people don't think America, hunger, those things just don't seem to go together.
Even before this crisis, food insecurity cost our economy over $160 billion a year because hungry children don't learn as well, hungry workers don't work as well, and hungry seniors can't stay independent.
And all of their numbers are growing.
They were very quick to bail out Wall Street when Wall Street was in trouble, but Wall Street wasn't in danger of going hungry.
With 1 in 5 children in America facing hunger, brushing the elephant in the room aside cannot remain an option for the U.S. much longer, as the suffering children are not just missing out on meals, but their entire childhoods.
All across America, there are kids going hungry. It sounds crazy, but it's real.
A lot of people don't come out because of pride, but now even pride gets pushed aside when your children are hungry.
For these people, poverty is a growing pandemic.
I'm just afraid of what's going to happen to the next generation under me, under my kids. I'm just afraid because everything is falling apart.
Children at risk of hunger are more likely to be in poor health and struggle in school. For some, it may have negative lifelong implications that could prevent a developing child from reaching their full potential.
It's getting worse, it's not getting better, and this is a major crisis in this country because you look at countries like the United Kingdom or France, they have child poverty rates that are under 10%, yet in the United States it's now well over 20%.
There's also Jean Culver, a single mother of 2 young boys from Pennsylvania.
Are your boys aware that you may not be eating because you want to make sure they're fed?
They're not aware of that, but they do get the fact that mommy doesn't have enough money to get them what they want.
In a country with a government and a model that's focused on the well-being of its people, obviously its children would be a priority. But unfortunately, the United States is not a country with that kind of model.
Nobody should go hungry in America, especially kids.
So what's the opposite of food security? Really what it is it's a mother going into a grocery store knowing she has a certain amount of money to feed her family, and she chooses the 10 for 10 sale. So she's buying a lot of food versus quality food, high quality food. So then we're feeding our children foods that are high in sugar, salt, trans fats, instead of nutrient-dense, wholesome food.
What if you had to make the choice between meals and medicine, between making rent and filling lunch boxes? What if you didn't have enough money to keep the power on at home and nourish a healthy body? 37 million Americans, that's 1 in 9, are food insecure.
The worst areas are called food deserts. Sure, there's a lot of food here, just not real food. Because folks here and in many other cities are poor, they eat cheap food, which means a lot of chips, soda, candy, and fast food, which leads to weight gain, diabetes, and other issues. But a box of mac and cheese will fill up a belly more than a salad. Plus, who wants to eat a salad when they're starving?
And the pandemic is also causing many to go hungry. Thousands have been forced to wait for hours in long lines at food banks all across the country.
You know, I don't have any income coming in. I don't get any food stamps. It's just hard to get, any help right now.
America has more deaths from the coronavirus now than any other nation in the world.
They're rationing food. If this goes on much, much longer, then we could start to see actual starvation in America. We're doing far much worse than any developed Western nation.
It's a time of unprecedented demand everywhere, but the need may be most critical here in rural America. Communities where pantries are closing because food is scarce, and because the volunteers who staff them are worried about their own health.
A mile-long line at a Pittsburgh food bank, and it's hardly unique.
Today we have gathered to rededicate ourselves to the objective that all nations, all people, all inhabitants of this planet have all the food that they need, all the food that they deserve as human beings. We are here to renew a worldwide commitment to banish hunger.
Investing in public health works. We can break the cycle of poverty. People and nations can rise into prosperity. Despite the cruelties of our world and the ravages of disease, millions of lives can be saved if we are focused and if we work together. And all of our nations have work to do, and that includes here in the United States.
There's a sense of urgency in America. There's a cry for the church. Does anybody care? Does anybody care what's happening? When you think about every 40 seconds someone commits suicide, when you think about that over 4 billion people on the planet can't read or write, when you think about that the average homeless person in America is not 36, he's 9 years old. When you think about the woman who's being trafficked, she's not 22, she's 11. Once God reveals to you the condition of your community and your society, we as people of God must act. We must act. We must get engaged in this culture.
As a community, we can do better.
We had a truckload of food come from a church, Concord Presbyterian Church, in conjunction with Harmony Volunteer Township Firemen. They knew people were out of luck, so they were able to whip all this stuff together in less than 4 days. We have all these wonderful churches and groups that know there's need, and they give, they share.
Take action. Advocate, volunteer, donate. Together, we can end hunger.
Now, of course, there's tons of ways you can help. There's links in the description for websites that you can donate to or contact in any way if you want to help.
I just think it helps the people that live in these communities to know they're not forgotten.
You get a chance to make another person who's down on their luck feel uplifted, even if it's only for a few minutes.
Together, we can make real change. We can break the cycle and build healthy, strong communities.
It really is about community, about being there for one another, you know, in a safe place. And it creates this sense of family. We always call it the Ladle family. We're a resource for Beaver County.
Remember, there's hungry people all around us. They might be your neighbors or your coworkers or the person behind you in line at the store. The next time you sit down for a meal at home, be grateful for what you have, because there's people all around us who aren't so lucky. The end. Peace.